I'll just start this video by saying, yes, obviously I read my own Wikipedia page. Obviously I Google myself. I have a brand, people write stories about me, and I try to be aware of what's going on. I get Google alerts when people write stories about me, and I also have people sending me things about me and giving me updates. It's not because I want it to be that way, it's because sometimes people write fake things about me in an effort to harm me. And that's the point of this video. So it's about smears and hit pieces and the facilitation of a hit piece and how, no, for one thing, they weaponize Wikipedia. But I also want to get into this idea I've been thinking about in terms of how the press functions and what they choose to write about and what is important. I think it's fair to say that I have accomplished some things this year that are particularly newsworthy. And I've got a kind of an interesting story about what's happened between me and the press. Long story short, I made thanks to most of you guys who watch, there was a major milestone with Subverse. It was rejected. That we raised over $1 million in less than a day at a time when media is collapsing, we're expanding. Nobody wanted to write about it. But I do have that, and I'll talk about this. So, as many of you know, I've referenced my Wikipedia page on several occasions because over the past several years, it's been a nightmarish piece of trash. I used to be a huge fan of Wikipedia until I became more aware of what's known as the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. For those that aren't familiar, the Gell-Mann amnesia effect is basically when you read something and you're not an expert, you assume it's true. When you read something and you are an expert, you then start to say, wait, what? That can't be true. But because we're only experts in certain fields, we assume most of the press we're consuming is fact-based. Well, I'll give you the perfect example of this. Wikipedia is the best way to understand Gell-Mann amnesia and why I no longer trust any article that I read for the most part. And then Wikipedia is an aggregator, but I'll give you an example. I know, and I'll say this too, every time I talk about my Wikipedia page, naturally, because there's a ton of viewers, it goes into a battlefield and changes emerge. People then are made aware of the page existing, and then controversy erupts, and then people are arguing, and whatever happens. So, first of all, let's talk about Gell-Mann amnesia. Timothy Daniel, and I want to, the focus of this is the hit piece, the smear, and how activists weaponize fake news to smear you, and I can debunk some stuff. They say that Tim Pool was born March 9th, 1986. He's an American YouTuber, journalist, and political commentator. He is best known for live streaming the Occupy Wall Street protests in 2011. I'd stop right now and say this. Am I? Did you guys know that I did a famous live stream of Occupy Wall Street? I'd be willing to bet most of my subscribers don't know that. I'd also be willing to bet that most of my subscribers don't know that I chose the first North American Drone Coalition testing facility for drone regulation. Meaning, when the US government was working with universities to figure out what kind of laws should exist with drones, that I went down to, and I was the only one there at first, and then one other guy from the AP showed up, and like none of these other organizations showed up. And it was me, basically. We had a conversation, we discussed the testing facility, and ultimately that was like the extent. But I bring that up because I did a ton of work with drone technology. I believe I did the first ever live broadcast via drone during Occupy Wall Street when consumer drones were first released, and we hacked it to stream what the drone was seeing. Could be wrong about that. And I could be wrong because nobody writes about it. And this is one of the things I wanted to bring up, the anatomy of a smear. I'll tell you what they do write about. Let's do this. Down at the bottom, there is a political positions section on my Wikipedia page. Media Matters for America, a left-wing media advocacy organization, has classified Pool as a far-right commentator and conspiracy theorist. His political commentary has been variously described as progressive and conservative. That I love. I mean, I can't disagree with that. That's spot on, right? So Wikipedia, it does work. Here's the thing, though. I don't think there's anything inherently nefarious with Wikipedia other than the people who care the most are the people who will edit it, and a bunch of stories are omitted. More importantly, if the press doesn't write about it, how can it ever become public record? And this is where the nightmare scenario emerges, and you start realizing how screwed up everything really is. So recently, I raised $1 million for Subverse through all of you, the viewers who contributed and invested. It's not in here at all, is it? You'd think that would be newsworthy. I pitched that to many people, said, hey, check it out. We got a press release. We just did this record-breaking thing at a time when these media companies are collapsing. And I was told, yeah, interesting, pass. Not interested. Why not? It's a record, right? We did something. They don't care. I'll tell you what, though. You'll certainly be able to find articles calling me a conspiracy theorist. Well, I was actually surprised by that. Conspiracy theorist? Milquetoast fence sitter Tim Pool pushing conspiracy theories? At the most, I'm debunking and telling everybody they're wrong and refusing to take that leap of faith. So much so that I have been criticized for when Jacob Wall first claimed there was an accuser for Robert Mueller. I said, I need evidence. And I was smeared for that. They said, Tim Pool believes Jacob Wall. No, I said, you got to give me evidence. If he's making a claim and he says a person exists, then I'm going to wait for him to show me the person. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. I detest conspiracies. Well, how then did I end up as a conspiracy theorist, according to Wikipedia? And here is the smear. The citation is Media Matters, and it's this story. A baseless smear targeting Ilhan Omar made its way to Trump, thanks to Fox and these far-right figures. Oh, heavens. I'm far-right now, they say. Well, certainly, I guess, according to them. But if you watched my video the other day on, I'll just search for my name. If you watched my video the other day on my political compass, I'm actually kind of far left. But here's what they said. Tim Pool falsely claimed, Star Tribune claimed, that Omar may have married her brother. Oh, is that so? Oh, heavens. They say Tim Pool, comma, a YouTuber with connections to multiple white nationalists and far-right figures, comma, what? They never talk about my connection to Hollywood celebrities, Antifa activists, the migrant children, the Soviet generals, everyone else I've interviewed. So you can see now how they're trying to frame this with a lie. Uploaded a June 23 video falsely claiming that the Star Tribune showed Omar, quote, may have married her brother. Oh, that's interesting. Did Tim Pool do that? Let's open this. What? Heavens, did Tim Pool, what is this? It says, far-left Democrat Ilhan Omar may have married her brother, says Pulitzer-winning mainstream newspaper, 343,000 views. And there's this article, it says, new documents revisit questions about Rep. Ilhan Omar's marriage history. Wait, so Tim Pool lied? He falsely claimed this? Hold on, let's pull up the story. And what is that? Let's pull up the story and see what the Star Tribune actually said. The Star Tribune said, new investigative documents released by a state agency have given fresh life to lingering questions about the marital history of Rep. Ilhan Omar and whether, hey, come on, I'm reading here, and whether she once married a man, possibly her own brother, to skirt immigration laws. Wait, hold on. So they're arguing that my interpretation was incorrect. I would contend that they're actually saying there is fresh life to lingering questions that Ilhan Omar may have married a man, possibly her own brother. And we'll focus on this, possibly her own brother. Let's first break down some core facts. She did marry this man, right? Okay. Star Tribune said it's possibly her own brother, right? Okay, great. So am I wrong to say that the Star Tribune says she may have married her own brother? No, it's literally the opening paragraph. So how can Media Matters claim that I falsely claimed something that is in the opening paragraph? And in fact, the video is me arguing against it. Isn't that funny? The video is me saying, we don't have evidence, don't jump the gun. It's interesting that Star Tribune is saying this, and I was highlighting it for critical effect, to talk about it. This is what's hilarious. They claim that I'm pushing the conspiracy, that I'm far right, simply for talking about it in a critical context, while mentioning a mainstream publication is now entertaining the possibility. I draw no conclusions. I'm a milquetoast fence sitter on most things. Well, Media Matters writes it, and then activists put it on Wikipedia, and now the context is stripped, and no one knows the Star Tribune article is what they're referencing. It literally exists. I was semi-critical of the concept, and it just enters Wikipedia as far-right conspiracy theorist. Amazing. Well, I will give credit to Wikipedia, because I have no idea, for the most part, how they decide what they decide. It says, his political commentary has been variously described as progressive and conservative. I respect that. That's true. I just don't respect that Media Matters somehow takes precedent and becomes prominent on my page. Now I fully understand that simply by talking about this, I know there's going to be another wave of people going, and I don't care. Look at this as trash. You know what? I'm sorry. They do mention the modified toy remote control paired air drone for live streaming to a system called the Drone Stream. So that's cool. They mentioned my work with Google Glass. But interestingly, there are a lot of articles that come up about me, and they don't make it in here. And so the issue, I guess, is, for one, I don't think I matter. Really, I don't. I think there's I'm like a weird ancillary character in this great story that is the universe. I matter enough, however, for them to smear me as a far-right commentator, but not enough to write about my groundbreaking, record-smashing, Subverse News crowd investment. So this is Crowdfund Insider. It basically just wrote up our press release. Nobody wanted to cover it. I don't know what this website is, but they wrote about it. I can respect that. They have quotes from us, and they say that we raised $1 million in just 22 hours. You'd think that would matter substantially more than the one time I made a passive comment about an article that was semi-critical, right? This is how the media functions. First, yes, it's true there will be activists who are going to purposefully seek out negative information and write negative things about you. And you know what? That's unfortunate. But you can also see that the media is not interested in milestones. They're not interested in changes to the system. I reached out to dozens, or I don't know, maybe a dozen, a handful of journalists that I knew that cover this kind of stuff. And I said, big news, look what we've done. And the response from most of them was kind of like, so what? I'm like, so what, dude? Isn't it big news that we're watching the collapse of digital media and we just pulled this off? That we're expanding, revenue is up, everything is going great? And they didn't want to write about it. But I'll tell you what does get written about me all the time: smear pieces, attacks on my character. And I think this is a sign of where the media is currently at today. I'll give you another example. James O'Keefe. Someone recently tweeted this. I've deleted the tweet. I retract the statement. This is in response to James O'Keefe threatening to sue because someone pulled erroneous garbage from Wikipedia. That's what James O'Keefe said. You copied and pasted erroneous garbage from Wikipedia. I will sue you. And the journalist retracted. So what happens now if someone cites Wikipedia calling me a conspiracy theorist, referencing an article that doesn't call me a conspiracy theorist? So I'll give you another example. They say, Media Matters has called Pool a far-right commentator and conspiracy theorist. The citation they show just says I made a false claim. Okay, at the very, very minimum, can we just say Tim Pool was wrong? That's about it. I incorrectly interpreted the first content of that paragraph. Why then on Wikipedia do they say I'm a conspiracy theorist? Well, I believe, first and foremost, most people don't care who I am. I'm not controversial enough. I don't have very strong opinions. I just talk a lot, and for some reason people listen. But there are some people who don't like me because I'm critical of their political faction. And I'm not talking about the left and the right. I'm talking about the more extreme factions. So there's two things. One, there are conservatives who are adamant about trying to frame me as a conservative. Sorry, I donated a decent amount of money to Tulsi Gabbard and agree with a lot of her core policy positions. I have criticized her stance on nuclear energy. I have criticized her stance on reparations. I understand she's not perfect, but there's a lot of things about her that I find very important, particularly her stronger positions on private prison reform, the war on drugs, and ending regime change war, which, as you probably know, my biggest criticisms of almost everything in politics is American foreign policy. Because I was, for a long time, a journalist covering conflict and crisis. I have been overseas. I have seen some of these urban conflicts, and I do not like the idea that U.S. or otherwise is staging these things. And so that just means I live in my own bubble. I'm not thinking about a lot of the things Tulsi has proposed because I, like everybody else, have a perspective bubble, and I think foreign policy and culture are extremely important. It's what I see, it's what I hear. And I'm not perfect at all. But so I bring this up because there are conservatives who want to say Tim Pool is a conservative. Simply because we agree on free speech, no, I'm sorry, it's not although I will say allsides.com has now said it's a right-wing position. So I think it's fair to say then that based on the evolution of modern politics, calling me a progressive and a conservative is absolutely, absolutely spot on. But there's a simple word for this. According to allsides.com, Tim Pool is in the center. Yeah, because I agree with some conservative things and agree with some progressive things. Most of my core policy positions lean left. Some are far left. I run my business in a rather left-wing kind of way. I believe in a lot of left-wing core principles, and I'm in favor of the expansion of civil rights and social justice. I oppose the authoritarian tactics in cancel culture and communism. So I'm not going to say I jokingly refer to myself as a communist. No, I think in a lot of ways, idealistically and principally, I'm rather far left libertarian. And it's a weird thing to say, but look, in the end, I wonder why, who interviews me? Who talks about me and the work I've done? Reason.com. Libertarians. You see smears of me, you see accusations against me, and this is what they, so let's, I've gone long on this, but I really think it's just something on my mind. The media doesn't write about the fact that I gained over 1 million subscribers in 6 or 7 months. They don't write that I've gained hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, nearly 400,000 in only a span of a few months. They don't write about, they don't interview me on my support for certain politicians, my political views. They just smear me and accuse me of being far right or of being friends with people I'm literally not friends with. Let me tell you something, man. All of my friends, all of them are on the left, okay? That's hyperbolic. Cassandra Fairbanks is a friend of mine. She's a center-right kind of person. I would say that Will Chamberlain's a friend of mine. He's an ardent Trump supporter. I'm friends with a lot of people, but I am not friends with extreme... Well, actually, I was going to say, I'm not friends with anyone on the far right. I'm not. Unless you want to talk about anarcho-libertarian types, anarcho-capitalists, I think I know like one. But I actually do have friends who align with progressive far left. I'm a skateboarder. I grew up in that community. But they try and lie. And you know what? I think there's a big problem in the media's refusal to address things that may be actually noteworthy, right? Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend everyone should be writing about me. No, I really, really respect John Stossel. It was an amazing, interview. I appreciate it. He refers to me as leaning left and having supported Bernie Sanders. Thank you. It's true. And then people say like, yeah, but you talk about, you have right-wing talking points. And so did Tulsi Gabbard, and so did Amy Klobuchar. So did Bill Maher. Okay, politics today is weird, but the media, I'll give you the wrap up on this, okay? I apologize if this is a bit narcissistic, I suppose, but I must say there was a bit of frustration in the constant attacks on my character and a refusal to acknowledge anything good that I've done. And it makes me once again think that the media is slimy. It's just all about outrage and shock. And I'll give credit to Brian Stelter for pointing this out on his show today. Credit where it's due. He said it's an outrage cycle. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Media Matters, of course, they're going to smear me. But there have been, like Vice tried, aligning me as right wing. And it's like, why? Because I'm talking about certain things. When I talked about Trump derail earlier, I didn't agree with the president. I disagreed with what he did. When I talked about Tucker Carlson and diversity, I disagreed with Tucker Carlson and talked about diversity being a strength. They ignore every single time I bring up something that I believe to be true about my policy. They ignore it. And they seek out an out-of-context moment to try and claim I made it up when it's right here where the Star Tribune says she possibly married she married a man that was possibly her own brother. I didn't make it up. I was actually surprised it made it to the mainstream press. And I said, okay, if Star Tribune's reporting it, I think I should talk about it. I made no definitive, that's what they write about. That's the smear. They never talk about the good things people are doing. And I'm just sick of all of it. I think everything's insane. But I will give credits to, surprisingly, Becca Lewis. You may be familiar with Becca Lewis. She wrote the Alternative Influencer Network report, which I believe was incorrect in many ways and misleading in many ways. She followed up with an article that was predominantly about me, and I find it pretty shocking. It was about me, Dave Rubin, and Blair White, but mostly cited my commentary and my videos and my on-the-ground reporting. And actually, I have substantially more respect for her, having, for one, that she did a ridiculous amount of work to assess my content. I'm seriously impressed by that. Like 150 hours or more of all of my content to draw a conclusion. I disagree with some of her assessments. However, I bring this up because of all of the media that doesn't care about anything I've done. They don't care about what I believe or who I am. They just want a caricature of nonsense, conspiracy, fake news, and they don't care about nuance. Here you get somebody who, although I had strong disagreements with, actually came to a simple conclusion: I don't know. When they said, Becca said, periodic reminder that Joe Rogan has given his massive platform to white supremacist Stefan Molyneux, Proud Boys leader Gavin McInnes, professional harassers Sargon Avocado and Andy No, and Steven Crowder, multiple members of the intellectual dark web, and whatever Tim Pool is. And I sat there and I laughed when I saw that. I'm like, I gotta say, you dedicated so much of your time to absorbing my content, and your final conclusion was whatever he is. I respect that tremendously. I think it's fair to say I don't know. I think it's fair to call me a centrist. Based on independent research and community feedback with a medium confidence level, all sides calls me center. Center doesn't mean that my politics are all in the middle. It means that I sometimes agree with conservatives, sometimes with progressives, and that's actually what Wikipedia said. So I can respect that too. I absolutely do not respect any of this because it is a false smear using an organization designed to smear people. So in the end, I'm sorry for making this video so long. My ultimate conclusion is, man, I apologize for making a video about myself in this capacity, but it's frustrating how, you know, I do so much. I work so hard. I've made tremendous growth and gains and succeeded in so many ways, and the media does not care. They do not care at all. They don't have to. I get it. But it's frustrating then when all they care about is saying bad things about me. Our society is sick. Our news industry is trash. I know I play a role. I know we're all playing the same game. I try my best. I wish news organizations actually took interest in writing things that are potentially interesting. But I gotta admit, writing that Tim Pool, formerly of Vice and Fusion, has just shattered a crowdfunding record to launch a new digital media outlet at a time when media is collapsing probably won't get you as many clicks as calling me a far-right conspiracy theorist. And that's the world we live in. And even when I reach out to journalists I know saying, dude, this is a big deal, okay? I know I worked in these companies. They say, whatever, I don't care. Instead, what do you see? Brian Stelter and Oliver Darcy, media reporters for CNN. They used to cover, actual media issues, talk about fake news. That's all Trump all the time. Oliver Darcy, he interviewed me in the past, and now I see him tweeting petty nonsense at Dave Rubin, and I'm like, here we go. We have devolved to this degree. I do my best to avoid petty squibbles. And I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'll throw an apology to Becca Lewis because I absolutely would state that, when she wrote that AIM report, which I completely disagree with and believe was incorrect, that's fine. I got mad about it, for sure. And so I dedicated energy to it, and it's complicated. It's complicated. Long story short, I've decided it was a mistake. And I've made many mistakes in my life, and I shouldn't be dedicating energy to this nonsense. And if somebody has an opinion about me, I really don't care. I just wish we had a media, community, politics that actually cared about the state of our country, that cared about making things better, that cared about real accolades and accomplishments and advancements and developments. And I know it exists, okay? I'm just saying, when it comes to politics and media, it is media versus media. I think one of the reasons they don't want to write about it is because who wants to dig their own grave, essentially? My company is failing and this dude's taking off. Let me write a story about it. Yeah, I don't blame them. So and I'll admit part of it's my fault. It's my fault because since I've started this career, I have been extremely critical of the media and their failures. I once, at a major news conference on stage, said every one of you should be fired. And they did not like that. And I said it's because the technology has changed too much, and you don't know what's happening or why it's happening. So in the end, I think it's partly because the media has always hated me for being the disruptor who's coming to take away their jobs, and that's still the case. You have a politically charged digital media sphere, and when I left, eschewing the injection of politics, they got mad. So of course they're going to smear me across the board. You cannot have someone in your ranks come out and say, I'm blowing the whistle. You've done wrong, because it damages your bottom line at a time when your ship is already sinking. And there it is. And that's what the media is today. Long video, sorry. Stick around. Next segment will be coming up in a few minutes. And yeah, I'll see you all shortly.